happy hour time. Welcome back to another podcast where money talks and we make sure that yours works smarter, not harder. Folks, I'm your host, Rusty Westfall, and today we're diving into a topic that has become impossible to ignore if you want to grow in today's economy. So, leveraging social media to generate new business without relying on paid ads. Joining me today are two powerhouse guests who know exactly how to turn likes into leads and followers into financial growth. Nick Early and Brian Irome. Welcome, gentlemen.
Yeah, thanks for
Hey,
having me on.
hey,
It's a great
glad to
honor.
be here.
Indeed. Glad to have you guys. We got double trouble today, triple trouble, actually. So there's no
Yeah.
telling what the hell is going to happen in the next 59 minutes, but we're about to find out here. So, folks, I am here to tell you that these two men, they have helped entrepreneurs and business owners go from crickets online to fully booked calendars using nothing but organic content and strategy. So here's the bottom line. If your warm market, if it feels tapped, if your content, if it is not converting, or if you've been spinning your wheels and you've been trying to get some traction online, then this episode will be the game changer that you're looking for. So grab your favorite drink. And before we get started talking strategy, storytelling, and social selling done right, we got to first do our traditional podcast salute. Today, I went across the street. It is not a good thing having a Mexican restaurant literally across the parking lot. And I say this before, it's kind of like Cheers and Norm. Every time Norm walks into Cheers, everybody says, Norm, Kind of the same thing when I walk into Casa Maria, everybody goes, Russ. And then I set my little stool right there at the bar and I don't know, spend a lot of money. I feel like I should have some stock into that business. But today, we have a 32-ounce margarita, no ice. So that means that we're going to get a full 32 ounces. Gentlemen, what are we chugging on today?
Well,
I got Long Island.
Yeah, that was me last week. That's what I'm talking about. Let me see it, Brian. What you got? Where's it
Long
at?
Island styrofoam
You
cup.
got to put it in front of you. That's how. There we go. Styrofoam cup. So we're going to take you at your word for it. We're just going to assume that that really is a Long Island tea. And Mr. Nick Early.
well, I'm the straight edge one here. I'm doing water again. Yeah, I had a
Oh,
root
you
beer.
got vodka. Highly, highly distilled, filtered, quality vodka. That's what you got. So we're going to go with that. So, all right, gentlemen, have your cups ready. Here's to another successful podcast. May our viewers who are watching this live and on the replay get a lot of value from today's show. Cheers.
Love it.
All righty. That's how you kick off a podcast right there, ladies and gentlemen. So, gentlemen, if you could, and Nick, we're going to start with you. In
Okay.
less than 1 minute, please give us some background on yourself as it pertains to being a social media expert.
Well, I think my longest roots going back were that I used to text all the girls. And so, I always try to tell students sometimes that, when you're going back and forth with somebody online, it's kind of like flirting with a girl. You got to get them going back and forth a little bit before you can throw the right prospect and stuff in there. So that's where my skills originally came from.
That's pretty unique, I'll say.
But
I get
I had some good variety in my early years because I did a few different network marketing companies, and we used to do this thing called the Facebook Messenger Blitz where I'd send a bunch of stuff out when I was working with it was a high ticket affiliate marketing thing. It was about blogging and stuff. This is like 2015, 2016. And so I learned some things there. But really, when I got into insurance is where I kind of kicked it up a notch in terms of consistency and stuff like that. I'd be asking for people, people for referrals. I'd be, advertising that we're hiring and stuff like that. And so that's where the numbers started to really pack on and compound. And
And
then,
about how long ago was that, Nick? For those who hasn't tuned into previous shows and have not caught your original show with me, about how long ago
yeah,
was that you?
2020, 2019. Yeah.
Yeah, you've
So
been at it for a while.
that were my, I was still pretty unskilled, I would say. Like I had some general strategies, but it changes from business to business, so I couldn't necessarily carry over everything from what I did before with the affiliate marketing thing. But I've had a lot more variety the last few years as I've reviewed and consulted on all sorts of startups from marketing agencies to SEO to like sex coach therapists and hypnotherapists. So, I've created DM scripts and strategies for people on a lot of different niches and industries. Obviously, insurance being my bread and butter. So,
So where would you say that the majority of your knowledge and training in this particular topic, this respective topic, where did that come from? Did it come from trial and error? Were there courses that you took? Were there experts that, kind of like Brian, I know that he's paid like at one point in time 30 grand to invest in a course, but the return on an investment was what? Exponential, infinity. I mean, you got your money back within what? 3 months, if not sooner than that.
that's the way to do it. I think a good mentoring program, you should be able to break even by the end of it. Um, it's kind of hard to guarantee that for everyone, but like if you come into something and you're relatively skilled in a few areas already, you should be able to, start seeing a return on the back end of it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I've
And
done a few different things. I've done some video courses and some trainings, but that's maybe 5% of this skill for me. I do recommend that route for a lot of people because it's fairly cheap. You can pick up some good digital products in that realm for like under $100 even. But I just kind of picky. I don't like to learn that way. I've never been like a book or video course kind of guy. I'd rather just learn from the source and pay extra for the mentorship. So I would say it's maybe 25% that way versus in the trenches. A lot of my stuff is trial and error. I just, like to try some things and be like, well, that didn't quite work. What can I learn from this? And
so you're
so,
obsessed with tracking results and tracking data, correct?
mhm.
And Brian, I think you're the same way. So Brian, real quick, in about a minute, give us some background on yourself as it pertains to being a social media expert.
Well, I've been thriving off social media now for about the last 4.5 years. I was prior to this, I mentioned I was in construction, but I got into going down rabbit holes on YouTube and purchasing mentorships and information from people that I considered experts in this area of information that I was seeking. And just learning or being a consumer at one point, then learning the systems and strategies has kind of led me to this point. And ever since then, I haven't had a need to, let's say, go seek other W-2 employments. It's just been strictly social media and just leveraging the value of bringing content to people and people willing to pay me for my time and my experience in any particular field that I share on my YouTube. So that's pretty much, yeah, that in summary.
And usually we do this halfway and also towards the end, but I think for today's show, let's do it both at the front, the middle, and the end. Um, what is your social media? Let's say with your YouTube channel. What is your YouTube channel, Brian?
My YouTube channel is Stand Strong. And
And
the
that's
logo you'll see is a black and gold emblem with a book and a dollar sign at the top.
pretty similar to your background in terms of the colors there. And Nick,
Yes.
you do most of your social media content and growth on Facebook.
That is correct. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's just Nick Early on Facebook, the same way as you could see it there in the corner. If there's insurance agents watching, I have a Facebook group called Team Building Secrets. So that's the URL is just facebook.com/groups/team building secrets. And that's all about building $1 million teams. I do talk a lot about social media in there as well, because it's kind of the bridge to helping you do that easier.
So what made you guys realize, and this can, going forward, unless I'm specific to who I want to address the question to, whoever feels to, want to respond first, it is all you. What made you guys realize that social media was the most scalable way to grow a business? And this question really fits both of you guys to a T.
Well, I'll take it first. Well, considering my background, I come from construction. And before I started getting into the social media space, I was actually building a Facebook data center here. and the amount of money that they were putting in there, that told me what I'm doing ain't it. I gotta get in on where this is at because y'all just don't understand. After building hospitals for 15 years, and then I go to a data center, it made me look real crazy at what we was doing for the hospital. So yeah, I had to just take a chance on me, and because it was just too much money involved, and it showed me that it's more than just likes and pictures. Okay,
Absolutely.
because anytime there's transactions made, there's a special part of the building that we had to design just for that part. And it was just the security level and everything. It told me, yeah, this is where all the bread and butter is right here. I need to get with this.
Interesting. Yeah, follow the money, right?
Yeah, yeah. See the signs. Get in line. Yes, sir.
Nick, this one's for you. So I know that you have personally helped. There's a countless amount of people. I mean, you would have a better answer than me, but let's just say a lot of people and a lot of business owners and insurance agents go from zero leads to being fully booked. What's the biggest mindset shift that these people had to make?
I think really that it's kind of about not really showing up like a salesperson, and that should land for a lot of people, but there's some people that probably don't appear that way at all. So there's kind of two things I would go into. One is that I work with a lot of insurance agents, and I think people just kind of see them as a salesperson and not so much as the business owner that's the visionary, the entrepreneur. They're doing something special or something different, and they're trying to educate people. And so obviously you don't want to just, be salesy all the time, but in terms of mindset, you got to be willing to share what you do. I mean, you be can't be secretive about it. Like sometimes I look at people's stuff and I'm like, man, I hadn't even posted in the last 5 days. Like it's the lowest hanging fruit ever. I'm kind of an elitist. Like people should write some of their own stuff, but even using AI, it take you 5, 10 minutes a day. You could at least post something, at least put the minimum effort in. And so I think being willing to put yourself out there is number one, as simple as it is. And then mastering how they communicate, right? Making sure that they're talking more than just the product, you know.
I've been saying this for years. I don't care what business you're in, and of course, we're insurance guys, we're financial guys, right? But I think just as a business owner and entrepreneur, you should never keep yourself a secret. You should be a walking, talking, sleeping, eating, breathing billboard. And social media, no matter what platform it is, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, fill in the blank, LinkedIn, it's free advertising.
Mhm.
It takes 30 seconds to compose a post. It doesn't have to be scientific or rock science. I mean, you got Chat GPT, which I've been utilizing that a lot here lately. And it's a great tool to use. It's not a replacement, it's a great tool to use. So it takes zero effort to make a 30 to a 60-second post. And that, again, is free advertising. So never keep yourself a secret. So why do you think so many people don't do it? Where they post maybe once a week, if even that. Lack of passion, lack of knowledge, lack of drive, lack of enthusiasm.
I I think that a lot of people just really struggle with caring about what other people think, you
Yeah,
know. I think
I
that's a big
agree.
one is I wouldn't even say it's as simple as just, what if I say the wrong thing or sound stupid, but there's a lot of that. Uh, I will be compassionate here in the sense that some people are just not social media people. I mean, we could
Mhm.
say some of that is cap, like it'd be worth it if put the effort in and got the rewards from it. But some people generally, messes with their bandwidth to, be online and, you know, I know that I'm pretty good at multitasking and shifting gears, from different things, and some people maybe aren't so much. And so, I'll stay on both sides of the coin there. For some people, maybe they shouldn't, but there's definitely opportunity that they could be tapping into.
I've learned early on that in life you have to get uncomfortable to be comfortable.
Yeah,
If you're
most
going to
definitely.
get into if you're going to get into any kind of a business where you're in sales, where you're a business owner, I'm sorry, but I'm not. Sorry, but not sorry. You got to get uncomfortable in order to be comfortable. That's your job. You signed up for that. So I appreciate the compassion, but I'm going to be a little less compassionate and I'm going to give people tough love and tell them what they need to hear and not what they want to hear. All right,
Yep.
next question. Volume posting versus strategic posting. Which actually works? What is more effective?
Hmm.
Well, I would say it depends on your intention. They're both effective based on the intention.
That's
What would
right.
you say, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of go deeper on that. I think that there's a lot of leverage in strategic, but there's a lot
Hmm.
to be said about just being super consistent. Like I make a joke sometimes with people, I'm like, if you just said that you were the milkman, like 1950 style, but you did it every day, like eventually somebody's gonna come and get that from you. So like
Yep.
you don't really have to be strategic. There's nothing wrong with just saying what you have. Eventually that'll work because of it being in perpetuity and you being consistent. But
Hmm.
definitely if you want to create, urgency and you want to move people quicker and be more compelling and stuff like that, it's worth putting some effort into.
Right. Right. Then you would have, let's say if you had the separation of a personal page versus a business page. More so on the business page, you would want more fast movement, instant action versus your personal. You're just dropping seeds to your closest friends. And over time, they already know what you do. They should. But even if they don't, they will. And, they'll work their way around to you. So that's why I said, depends on your desired intention.
Now, I want to say something real quick, and only speaking in terms of being a financial services expert for the last 2 decades. I don't have any real expertise with social media outside of financial services and trial and error with myself. But you guys have worked with other professionals outside of financial services and insurance agents. What I do know is that most insurance agents, when they get started in this business, they get this brilliant idea. I will start a business page, and they start posting, thinking that people are just going to flock to that business page and they're going to generate all kinds of business. I've seen the thousands and thousands of times when that is something that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort to build over time. The best way to get the word out there in terms of who you are and what you're currently doing is to post on your personal page. And if you want that separation, create a business page, but don't expect immediate gratification from that within the first 6 to 12 months. It ain't going to happen. You guys care to add to that?
You said it. I started my Facebook group has about 2,100 people in it. And when I started it, I got 200 people in there relatively quickly the first week or two, and it stayed there for a minute.
There
I
we
mean, I
go.
was like, oh man, it's not going to grow on its own. I'm going to have to make this a thing. And I'll tell you what, I started it too soon. The amount of leverage that I got out of that versus just posting on my personal profile, I don't think I really started to get anything that I would consider worth it until I had over 1,000 people in there. And I wouldn't say that's the tipping point for every niche or everything, but for me, even having a good strategy, I got way more reach on my profile and just having the extra chore of creating twice a day versus once a day. It was enough for me to be like, it's kind of a drag. So and plus, on Facebook versus a Facebook group, it's like the same channel. There's a layer of depth with getting people to go the extra mile. But for a lot of it, I'm reaching the same people. So, but I do think it helps a lot in terms of playing the touch point game. I look at social media as a great way to take a cold person and warm them up very quickly. And so it just comes through touch points, right? If you can get in front of them more often, faster, how fast can you take them to know, like, and trust you? And then it's in some cases it's just the logistical thing. Of does the solution you have, does the product you have apply to them? Common sense, like, hey, we trust each other, we like each other, we have a relationship. Does this thing add value or not? Like in some cases, you don't have to make it more complicated than that.
We're definitely going to touch base on that, warming people up. And that is your bread and butter right there, at least for you, Nick. I know for sure
Mhm.
you're an expert at that. I mean, you're a borderline genius at the approach. And it's all on how you approach people. Just like if you're it's just, I mean, let's just stick with what I know. Selling insurance and you're working leads. It's how you approach that lead as opposed to just approaching it. Hey, you sent in a card or you called in what do you want to buy? You know, there's a way that you approach that lead from door knocking or when somebody answers the phone. So in promoting yourself and content, it's the way that you approach things versus just regurgitating a bunch of stuff on social media and expecting to have results from that. What should someone post? And this is a very loaded question here, guys. Do the best job that you can with addressing this. But what should someone post if they only had 30 minutes a day?
30 minutes a day, man, it's a lot you can post. It don't take a quarter of that time. 30 minutes a day, you could a lot of time I would say you will want to post information that you just know is valuable, right? Maybe it's something that you had to pay to learn that you just had no idea, right? Now you're sharing it for free, right? So that's value. That's really just delivering value. You take the short amount of time and deliver the most value in that time, and you stay consistent with that. And then that will bring forth results guaranteed.
Would you say, Nick, that that's one of the key factors to success with, um, generating business or leads via social media is consistency? As in my opinion, I think that's what most
Yeah.
people lack is, they're gung ho for a couple of weeks and they don't see that immediate result or immediate gratification. So then they back off and all that momentum they built up, it just stopped
Yep, fizzles
right
out.
before they got to the goal.
100%. I think consistency is probably the number one thing,
It is.
as boring as it is, you know. But I love what Brian said there because, like, to me, that just sums up like what is value, and in order to really make that land for somebody, you got to think about what is valuable to who. I remember
No
in the
question.
early days, like that was kind of the word that got thrown around. I was like, what the hell is value? Like, what does that mean? But if you have a way to help somebody get somewhere, it's almost like you have a moral obligation to share that with people. And so I
Yeah,
think it's just like not gatekeeping is a good principle to follow. It's like if you know something, put it out there. It can't help somebody if it's kept away in your closet or in your pocket, if you're keeping it close to your heart. You don't always have to, you know, extract in order for it to do something for you. I believe in the universe and reciprocity of you give something out, you don't have to get back from the person you gave to.
right.
I got a question I just thought of. What percentage of your post should be business related, and what percentage of your post
Mhm.
should be personal related to remind people that you're a human being, that you really do have kids and a wife or a spouse that you love, there that you have a life outside of your business. Because I know there are moments where for months, I mean, I don't post anything about my kids or my family, and then I start thinking about, like, well, they're my prized possession,
Yeah.
and it's all about my kids, so then I switch gears and I'll post some fun things on there. Is there a balance, or is there like some sort of a ratio on what percentage of your content you should be posting should be more professional related and what should be more personal related?
Good question.
I would say, like, for me personally, that's why I have separate pages. So my business page is 100% business. There's nothing personal about it. And my personal page is my personal mixed with is more personal. It's probably 70% personal, 30% business. And then I have my groups. It's strictly then every now and then I'll throw a little personal, but anybody that's by the time they're in the group, they already know me on my personal side. So they can go to the personal page to see
But
that. So
see,
I kind of
that's
have
the
that.
I think that the people who are tuning into today's show are the
Hmm.
ones who are new or newer to the business, and they're learning how to be more effective on social media. So they probably don't have that professional business page built out in the manner that
Right.
you do. So, in those early stages, and when I say early stages, I'm saying the first couple of years,
Hmm.
you know, what would be, hypothetically speaking, what would be a good ratio of personal?
I'd say about 70/30 still. And then you can work your way up to separation. That way you can increase it to have that separation. Because I didn't start off with a business page, it was just personal. But as I began my business, I started to share it with my friends so that they know. And then I kept sharing the success of the business throughout the time, all the way to a point where I just had to separate it. It became too much.
Tackle this question to the best of your ability, guys. What does turning invisible skill into visible value? What does that look like for beginners?
Mm, That's a great question. Um, it's tougher for beginners. I can tell you that. There's not as many bricks of skills there, but I can tell you what I think of in general with that is like for the insurance space, there's not a lot of people that go into the nuances of the policies. And like, I don't know if it's just because they're afraid of saying the wrong thing or they don't think to go there, or they don't know it yet themselves, but I
Mhm.
feel like that's massive value. Like a lot of people can say, "Hey, come to me for your insurance," or like, "Hey, I help somebody do this," but nobody really shows instead of tells. And we have a lot of stuff that we help people with that area. Like one of the go-tos that I always share with agents is the stuff around living benefits is like they're not all living benefits are created equal. If you show them the nuances of that, now stuff like that pretty much shows you as an undisputed expert in your field. Like there's just things that you can't possibly know unless you know the basics, right? And so I like to put stuff like that out there because then you don't really have to say you're the king or anything like that. It's just, here's the proof right here.
Right, right.
And so
So
that's definitely tough to do as a beginner, but I mean, we all started there. Like you got to get your knowledge inch by inch, and a lot of it is in the trenches.
As I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm like, man, I hope I don't screw up today's show because I mean, I didn't get the memo. I was supposed to wear a hat. Nobody told me.
Tell you for a beginner, I think if they could lean on some of their experience before they started the business, that could help because like especially older folks, like they have life experience where they have skill.
Yeah.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen out there in the audience, just so y'all know, that is how laser focused Nick is. I can throw a joke in there about a hat, and he doesn't skip a beat, man. He just
Yeah,
finishes his thought because that's called passion. Passion right there. He's like, okay, that was funny. Anyway, as
Yeah.
I was saying, but I got him to laugh, so mission accomplished here. Let's talk tactical tips and for daily execution for a moment. Um, Weekly posting workflow. What should it look like? Is there a formula?
I've
I
got a
don't have a
few.
formula. Go ahead, Nick.
Because my next question is gonna be a good one.
I've
I'm,
got a couple things that I follow. Am I still with you guys? Well, I was
Yeah,
muted.
you're
yeah,
here.
we hear you, Nick.
Yeah, I had a couple windows pop up. So I do a little something different on my personal page in my Facebook group. And I'll give you guys the sauce for if you're running a Facebook group. It doesn't matter if you're in a different industry or whatever. We tried this with a few different industries. This comes from like the top 7, 8 figure stuff. This is
Guys,
still
y'all
works
be
today.
paying attention. Secret sauce. He's getting ready to drip some
So we,
knowledge
we
here.
ran a 5 day launch, and so it's often thought about that running and managing a community or a giant group is taxing, right? And so like what's the most effective thing you can do in the least amount of time? It kind of follows that 30-minute thing, right? This actually takes less than that. And so we'll do like a poll question on Monday. And this is kind of like a launch sequence. So if you wanted to do your live stream or something on a different day than Thursday, I always choose Thursday, but if you wanted to do it on like a Monday, then you might post some things on the weekend instead. But we would do like a poll post, kind of like some market research around the general topic area the first day. And that just kind of gives us a direction to validate the angle that we want to talk about. And then we would drop like a lead magnet on a Tuesday. And that's where we would also tag all the new welcome members in. And so it'll get some extra eyeballs than it normally would. And usually a lead magnet's going to get some comments below people requesting it or whatever. So that would kind of boost the algorithm. And then on the third day, I would tease, I just basically write a hook, so it'd be like super short form, maybe one of those colorful background posts on Facebook. And just tease kind of the title for what some different angles for what you're going to teach in the main piece of long form content. And then Thursday would be long form piece of content, live stream usually. And I got a formula for the live streams, because it was mainly for the purpose of booking calls, right? And so that's kind of another rabbit hole to go down. And then on Fridays, we post a replay to drive traffic back to the thing from yesterday. And sometimes I'll change the hook, sometimes I would say it exactly the same way. And I found that for like, 45 minutes for the live, maybe you did a 20-minute one or a 15-minute one, and a total of 20 minutes crafting the other four posts. Basically, 30 minutes to an hour a week, you got your content done. Now, if you're running a big operation, you may have to train and manage your appointment setter and teach them how to message people and send the invites out and book people in for sales calls. Or if you're doing it yourself, which is a lot of people do, you know, you got some extra time there to actually, maximize the potential there. But I still run that for my group this week. I ran it. I didn't follow the poll thing on Monday, but I brought on a guest to show some automation tools and dropped the replay thing like an hour ago.
Yeah.
And on the personal profile, I do a little bit different. You can't do polls on your personal profile, but you can ask a question, which is kind of the same
You
thing.
used to be
You
able
can
to at
drop
one point in time, right?
Yeah, and you
Used to
can
be able
drop
to do
multiple
polls.
ones in the comment section. And so what I like to do for someone that's super new is just build the algorithm up. I call it the 1-2 punch, is we'll do like a joke or a meme or like maybe a quote that's just it's hard for it to not do well. Or maybe like, for a pretty girl if she does a selfie or she's out with her dogs or her kids or something. And then right after that we do the businessy post. So it's like maybe it doesn't get as much likes or engagement or comments, but the algorithm rewards you from the extra stuff you got on the one before, to at least it gets seen by a few people. So I like to do that. And then if we get super nerdy, there's different things you can do to drive urgency or focus more on generating leads versus pushing already generated leads into sales. And that's kind of another rabbit hole to go down. But um if I'm being lazy, I'm just going to follow the other two things I just went deep on, because I mean, less than an hour a week to do, both of those if you really know what you're doing and you know what your angles are for your niche, which is that's the master skill, is to know what the hell you should be talking about to begin with.
And
Yeah.
talking about this, starting from the basics, I think one of the first and biggest mistake that people make is starts with their profile. So, what are the key ingredients to a profile that attracts high value leads?
Well, I can tell you some elements of it, and then I can tell you some of the more logistical pieces. So, from element standpoint, you got to build trust. You want to build credibility and you
How
want
do
to
you
build
build trust?
authority.
How do you build trust? Let's start there.
Well, it looks a little different for everyone.
Yeah.
There's three main archetypes for what type of the way that people trust. So some people are trusting just based on they hear the magic words, right? You show them the right thing, they're quick, there's no convincing, right? That's maybe 10% of people. There's another 40 or 50% of people that their trust is based on um, examples or what you might consider to be overwhelming evidence, right? And so that's where you might want to have a case study. You'll be like, here's what John did, here's what Rusty did, here's what Brian did. And it kind of gives them some variation of like proof of the pudding. And then there's people that it's like a length of time thing. Like there's nothing you could say, there's nothing you could do. They could see 100 different samples of evidence and it's not going to move the needle for them. They just need to have known you for a long period of time. There's a little hack with those people where if you talk about things from the past that they may have also experienced, they'll feel like they've known you for longer. So, like, if you were to talk about some of the things that happened in 2008 or talk about some of your favorite bands in high school or something like that, like, people will start to blend their memory with your memory a little bit. And that's, kind of a ninja hack there. And so, you just call it programming or indoctrinating people. You gotta know what you're building trust on, but those are some high level principles to kind of think about.
Help me
Yeah.
with this, guys. I mean, platforms make every kind of a difference. Why do people go to LinkedIn? You go to LinkedIn, you think more professional, you think careers, you think business, B2B, right? So what you post and the content you post on LinkedIn, is it going to look the same as what you post on X? Absolutely not. X is more of like just a quick update on the current, days of events and what's going on and who's doing what. When you go to YouTube, people are, as you said, Brian, we had a conversation on this just as recent as I think yesterday.
Mm.
People are there at YouTube. They're there for a while. They're there to spend some time
Yeah.
Mhm.
as opposed to like Instagram or TikTok, it's scroll. If it's more than 15, 30 seconds, it's just too much. That's not why they're there on Instagram. That's not why they're on TikTok. They're there for that immediate 15-second dopamine, go to the next one, dopamine, go to the next one. Whereas YouTube, it's more research, it's more, entertainment or whatever the case may be. So with you, Brian, what are the key ingredients to your profile that attracts high value leads when people go to your YouTube page? You told me this answer, but for today's
Hmm.
show, what would you say?
Credibility, transparency, and authenticity.
Well, you also told me it's content. It's
Yeah.
having enough
Hmm.
content. The more
Hmm.
content you have when people go to the page, they
Yeah.
see just, all this content that they
Yeah.
can just, it just goes deep, right?
Yep.
Can you
Now that's
expand on
over
that?
time. Yes, over time, when that comes with building, staying consistent. Because when you're first starting off, it's easy to get overwhelmed when you see other people that may be similar doing to what you do, but you don't take into account how long they've been doing it. Okay. So the more you get to over analyzing, you get what's called analysis paralysis,
Paralysis. Yeah.
and that stops you from going anywhere. So it's just to take it easy. Today is one day. I'm gonna drop a video. With technology now, though, man, you have no excuse because this is pre AI. I'm gonna be talking about. All right, pre AI. You just drop a video. You start off maybe one a month. Okay, give yourself some time. Right, and then you start maybe doing once a week, maybe two a week. You could probably spend the weekend just creating a bunch of content, then throughout the week, just schedule it to be dropped so that you're not overwhelmed every day dreading to, create content. A lot of time is once you be comfortable in what you do, you become the content. So it's not really much effort in trying to create something because it's just so organically coming from you, right? Especially when we're seeking to educate people. So let's say I just learned something, and the best way to really know how well you learn something is to teach someone.
Mhm.
It
You
is. It's true.
can really
It's
see how
true.
well.
It's like the teacher becomes the student, don't they?
Yeah,
They
yes,
do.
every time. So just being consistent and doing that, you'll be surprised what you can have over 6 or 7 months. Because a lot of times I look up at my content, I'm like, man, I got 200 videos. Like, oh my gosh, how did I do that? But it wasn't overnight. And it wasn't all at one time. It was just taking one day at a time and staying consistent and being genuine.
Yep. Absolutely. And just for the record, point of information on the audience, whether you're catching this, real time or on the replay, Brian Arame here, he's been building his social media content on his YouTube channel for what would you say about 5, 6 years now,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
you'll see that it's all it mortgage, many different genres that are out there. But he got his license about a year ago, and that's been more of his focus in financial services and creating wealth and protecting people's most valuable financial asset, hence the financial shield. And just on his YouTube channel alone, just in the last, what would you say, 6 or 7 months, this year alone, he's
Yeah.
generated $270,000 in income in new business from all driven through your social media without $1 you've invested. Am I correct or incorrect on
You're
that?
100% correct.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. So let's talk about the mistakes. What not to do. Mistakes to avoid in bios, banners, and first impression. What are some of the things that you guys see that you just cringe and you're like, you're doing it all wrong?
I would say low quality stuff. So like, a lot of times you'll see these third world country people, you could tell the difference between that versus someone who's not over there. Even if someone doesn't have the marketing juice, they don't really know what they're doing and how to make it compelling. Like there's a level of quality difference sometimes, and that stands out, you know. Um, Sometimes people's like name, like, sometimes people put like weird nicknames in there instead of like their real
Yeah.
name. That can kind of take away trust and credibility,
Yeah.
you know.
I agree.
It's also like from a logistics standpoint, like if I can't remember what your last name is, sometimes like you could type in Michael or something and it's gonna pull up 50 different Michaels. You can't find the person you were trying to reach out to, but you're like, damn, like what, it's a self-imposed handicap, So just like think about like from a user interface standpoint. And this is like less so much the case with like a Facebook or something, like the tools are relatively laid out the same, but like, can people find where you're trying to take them to go? Like, I see sometimes people have like 40 different links. It's like, which one you're going to go to? Like, people are just going to bounce probably or save it for later. But if you can keep their attention, like, the first goal with any piece of content or your profile is to grab the attention first. Most people lose people on that step. But the people that have been really in the game and trench realize it's about directing the attention more better.
Right.
That
Like a
now that
funnel.
you have it, we got to direct it. And so, I always tell people only put like one or two links in your about section or your bio or whatever. Like make them want to click the thing that's there. Like you need to go to the full outcome. Like I have a link to my Facebook group there. It's like my stuff will make somebody who wants to build $1 million team like they can't really resist it. Like they'll poke around and I'll have evidence that they did that because they can't make it to the other side without me seeing, okay, this person wants to join your Facebook group or whatever, right? If it was a funnel on a landing page, you can track the attribution there, like how many clicks did you get, did they opt in or whatever, right? Sometimes you can put pixels on it, you can track exactly where they came from, where the click came from. And that's helpful if you have a bunch of different stuff. If you've been in the game for a while, you have multiple lead magnets. It's like, okay, if you have a bunch of different rabbit holes that all lead to the same place, how do you know which one's working over the others? And so a lot of it is tracking and boring stuff.
I've got one for you, Brian. How do you deal with trolls or bad engagement?
Agree with him.
This is right
Don't
up
give
your
it up
alley,
to him.
man. You love this. I mean, this is a
I,
Brian
you
Ironman
know,
question here.
I like wait troll. I reverse troll, right? I
Tell me about it. What does that mean? I reverse troll.
well,
Educate me.
typically when you're trolling, you're kind of being mean and going against whatever's being posted, right? Well, I'll go with it, but still redirect the attention. Yeah, you know what? He's right, but have you known about this? Right? So now I don't versus saying, oh, he's full of shit, or excuse my French. He don't know what he's talking about. That's a trash product he's trying to get you. Look at my product. Follow me. No, I won't do that. I'll come in and agree with them and then give more value to what he's saying without telling you to follow me. Because if I can get your attention, just like Nick said, by the time you click my profile, you're going to see what I'm about, and I'm going to have the links there that's going to go for it.
Time out. So I think you're talking in specific to like other advertisements or maybe
Mm-mm.
possibly
In general, just
content
post.
of things that people post
Mm-hmm.
and how you comment, basically agree. Kind of like an
Right.
objection. Grant Cardone, you can't get to an agreement on a disagreement. So absolutely, I understand, not a problem. And then you move on. But then when you create that curiosity, help me if I'm wrong here. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to
You
piggyback
got
off
it.
what you're saying. But
Mm-hmm.
when you create that curiosity, I'm like, well, I want to check them out. Click, and they go to your profile, and then they see the credibility.
There you go. Yep. Oh, that's why.
Everything's an
And
opportunity.
there you go. Everything's an
Sometimes I'll just
opportunity.
ask people like, "Oh, interesting. Why do you feel that way?"
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll take the curiosity angle.
Yeah. Well, what has been your experience for you to say that?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the word feeling is so untrained and so underrated because we all know that people, make decisions 100%, especially when making purchases. They buy off of emotion. How do you tap into that emotion? By using the word feeling. How do you feel about that? And that's where you expose those feelings. It's like, let me use a retail example here. When you go to Walmart and you're at the checkout and you've got a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, what do they have right there by the checkout? They're called impulse items, emotional impulse items, that where people, there's that instant gratification, little gadgets and things, just bullshit that you don't need, but everybody wants, right? So, what's an extra $5 here? That's kind of great. Another $7 in, put it. So it's all about the feelings and the emotions. And that was a brilliant word that you used. How do you feel about that? Let's talk about advanced social strategies in recruiting, guys. I knew that we were going to, like most shows, I'm going to have more questions and more things I want to cover and disclose than what we have enough time for. So as we are starting to kind of wrap things up, let's talk about advanced social strategies in recruiting. So what is your all's take on building presence versus just chasing likes or followers?
I would say building a presence is separating yourself from everybody, right? Showing that, hey, whatever this person is delivering is a little bit different because everybody is facing the same thing when they open up their apps, right? Somebody trying to get their attention one way or the other, whether it's for shock value or just, monetization. Some people just post and ain't even monetized and they ain't got nothing else better to do.
So I want to make
So
this a two-part question, Brian. So
okay.
with that, how do you attract the right people using content? Because kind of like when you're doing paid advertising,
Mhm,
you don't know what you're going to get. I mean, I think
mhm,
back to my days in final expense, like a television lead, direct mail, and I'm getting very market niche specific here, but I think that this is very fitting for this question. One of the benefits, the biggest benefits of doing direct mail leads is that you can be really specific to who you target. You
mhm,
can mail to a certain age demographic, a certain income demographic,
mhm,
in a certain, geographical area. I say, I want to market the outskirts of St. Louis, but not St. Louis, because
mhm.
that St. Louis is not is not the greatest
Yeah,
area. I want to go in the rural market. So you can be more precise. But if you do a television ad, you're at the mercy of who sees the ad and who calls in. Does that mean that that's going to be your right client or they fit the right income demographic? Probably not, even though it's more expensive. So understand the question here. How do you attract the right people using the content that you post?
I have systems in place, and it's just like funneling these people that reach out to you. You take them through a series of steps. The ones that you really want, they're going to get to the end, and the ones that's not really you want, they kind of fall off, or they'll get stuck in the middle. What you say, Nick?
Yeah, that's a good answer. I can go really kind of three different directions with this. When I think of presence, like I always try to share this with people of it's not really the post that's going to generate the lead, it's the presence that's going to generate the lead. Or sometimes I'll swap that word for profile, right? Like if you're putting out stuff that builds curiosity, but it doesn't really give them enough to do anything with it, like it's kind of like a buildup, right? So sometimes they'll see multiple of them, and some of it's educational, some of it's trust-based, some of it's that deeper, nuanced expertise you share, but you don't give them the full enchilada or how to put the puzzle pieces together. And it's like the identity of the person is what generated the lead. It's very similar to what Brian said earlier about eventually you become the content, and you're not trying to teach a certain concept or anything. It's just you become a person that can free flow a little bit, or like there's already a pre-established um, topic or level of expertise that's been present in the viewers' minds, right? And then the other two things are that, one of the reasons I love Facebook is you get to choose who you send friend requests to.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Maybe 10 or 20%
Yeah.
on a good day is going to reach your non-followers, which you want to obviously get your stuff seen by more people. And sometimes people don't even have their settings. Like every time I see someone's profile locked down and I see they're trying to run a business, I'm like, which make up your mind. You
Make it
want
make
people to
sense
find you,
to me. Yeah.
but
Right.
you can choose who to send friend requests to. Like I like to target people that are active on the platform. That's one way I know that person's going to warm up to me quicker than
And how
someone
do you
who's.
find that out when you're looking for public profiles first, right? And then when you
Mhm.
see a profile, so you're looking to see, are they making a lot of posts? Are they, to your point, active on social media via the posts that you see on their timeline because it's a public profile, correct?
Mhm.
Yep. So like if they posted it in 2022, I'm like, well, I'm not, it doesn't mean they're not a quality lead or they're not a quality person. They might meet some of my other criteria, but they're probably not as likely to turn into revenue quickly as somebody who's like going to see all my stuff. Like I've had people that didn't know who I was. They found my profile and they're liking 10 of my posts, watching 3 of my video trainings in the first 48 hours, and then they're a paid client. And it's like, that's what my profile is designed to do, is take the perfect person and, have them go all the way and ascend themselves to client stature quickly, right? And so part of that is knowing the underlying things that make people tick, right? And what makes them qualified. It could be core values, it could be a profession that they have, it could be a title that they have, director, founder, sales manager or whatever, right? And then the other thing I'll say here is you can call out your target. So like sometimes when I make a video, I'll be like, hey, this advice is for people that are between 35K and 55K a month, and they're dealing with this specific product or this specific problem related to their team. So I'm telling them, hey, I'm about to give you some nuggets for something, but it doesn't apply to people that aren't in this bracket, right? Sometimes you'll see this with ads where they'd be like, attention insurance agents that are making over 5,000 a month. They're basically like, hey, don't talk to me if you're not making 5 grand a month because you probably can't afford it. And so I think that's the less classy way to do it. Like I like to do it by talking about a specific problem. Like if I talk about, hey, 25 of your recruits have stopped plugging into trainings, well, that doesn't apply to the guy that has never recruited 25 people to begin with.
Right.
And so little things like that, you can go down the rabbit hole forever and find little nuances that make someone more qualified based on their current situation or their mindset about something than and I like to take that route, with the copywriting more than just, hey, I'm looking for this exact type of person. But that works too, you know.
Guys, we're starting to run out of time. We got 7 minutes left. I want to make sure I give you guys a plug. So I'm going to give you guys some questions here, short answers. If someone wanted leads in 7 days, what's the first move?
I'd be sending a lot of messages.
Yeah,
Wait,
More reliable.
message? Are you talking about private messages on
Yeah.
Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay,
Or
what would
phone
you be
calls.
saying? What's your approach?
Well, if I needed to lead in 7 days, my general approach is to be less salesy or whatever. But if I really needed to get results quickly, I would just do higher volume and I'd be pretty direct with people. But I think being less direct is help. Like earlier, right before I got on the call, I turned something around that was, they were being really standoffish. Like I messaged them earlier in this week and I'm like, hey, what side of the industry are you on? And they're like, why do you ask the question? That was their first, here's the guard going up. Like, hey, you're asking something you're not allowed to ask or something, right? And that question usually does pretty well for me. And I was like, oh, I was just wondering if you could help with like P&C or something. Because I do have somebody who's looking for a P&C quote, and that's not my area of expertise. So I have a little trick up my sleeve, right? And they were like,
A
no, I'm
trick.
good. And I was like,
Like
oh, but do you help with health? They're like, no, I mean, I'm good. We don't need to talk. And then I sent them the exact like nuance specifics of the quote and how much budget was quoted, and this and that, and the name of the companies. And they're like, oh, I thought you were asking something else. I thought you were trying to market to me. So now I got somebody who was like trying not to interact with me at all. And within 10 minutes, they're apologizing to me and they're open to having a relationship now. Well, it doesn't mean I have to do business with them, but now that they're probably seeing my stuff, the algorithms notice we talk back and forth a little bit. So it's gonna, keep from slapping me on the wrist a little bit if I wanted. She's gonna be chewing up my content now. I do stuff like that all the time. You got to find a way to get their guard down. And so I think there's a balance here between just saying what you want to say and sharing your intent right out the gate with being able to kind of shape and mold a situation. And I would argue that, yes, that's a skill, and maybe you can have more reliable results by just doing the volume thing. If there's a way to add value, take some time to massage it a little bit. You don't necessarily need to get in front of more people. You need that conversation to go well. And I always like to let people know, like, hey, I'm not going to pitch you anything until I feel comfortable that it's even relevant for you. Like, people will ask me what I'm selling. And I'm like, oh, nothing. I'm just wondering what you had going on.
Yeah.
Sure, I'd love for them to extend all the way through my funnel, but like, it's probably not going to work out that way anyways. There's nothing I'm going to say that's going to make somebody hand me a high ticket sale tomorrow. They're probably going to have to chew on 10 hours of my stuff. That's okay. That's what they're for. That was a long-winded answer, but
Yeah.
Hopefully that
So
helps.
here's the bottom denominator with both you and Brian is that it's all about being relatable. Don't be salesy, be relatable. You know, approach them be different and unique from the industry. We talk about that, like even on last night's call, you know, with IULs. And you do a search on IUL and you look at everybody, what they're posting out there, and how do you separate yourself from the pack, knowing that you have something completely different from what the majority is doing out there. So, but to me, it all starts with being relatable. And ladies and gentlemen, just so y'all know, this is how much we actually cover compared to the vast knowledge that these guys have had. And what I've learned from both of these gentlemen just this year alone, there's so many more tips and tricks of the trade that we could pass on. And so Brian and Nick, I'm going to tell you guys, we're going to have to do this again. We're going to have to do it again sooner than later because I have a lot more questions or a lot of things that I've learned and I picked up that we didn't even disclose today. Talking about algorithms. Algorithm, that's a 1 hour episode right there within itself, and how to wake the algorithm and getting people to see your content. And if you're not doing those little things, you could post till you're blue in the face. You got 5,000 people, but only the same 100 people are seeing your stuff because you're not doing the little things that invest 10 to 15 minutes of your time consistently, right? Every day to wake the giant. So last question, is TikTok overrated?
I'm not even on there.
Yeah. I got a profile. I never log into it. I can tell you, I had a guy come to me a few weeks ago. He gets 400,000 views on TikTok on average video, and he doesn't know where his next lead or client's coming from. And so, you know, it kind of comes back to what we were talking about earlier about lead quality and what someone's intent is while they're on the platform. But that doesn't mean TikTok can't be successful. I had a client a few years ago. This is about, it was like October of 2023. And it was something about Social Security. She wasn't in the insurance space, but her son does insurance. She was her thing was about helping people to get into high ticket affiliate marketing to prepare for retirement. And she posted a video. She was on vacation out of the country at the time. That's how much she was not expecting it to blow up. She got like 700,000 views on this post, and she wasn't even around to, you know, really be able to handle all the leads that came in. It got thousands of comments. And I don't know if it's still the case because I'm not really big on TikTok, but at the time, you know, it was limiting her to like 30 responses a day, even to people that were like technically inbound in her comment section. And then TikTok is also one where I don't know, you know, somebody can probably correct me, but I don't think people go back and forth in the messages, you know, as much as they do on LinkedIn and Facebook. And so she was limited to the ability to extract the leads that she got. And obviously there's that like 48-hour rule type thing, like it's better to schedule somebody sooner than later. She literally broke, you know, her infrastructure. So that's why I teach people to use Facebook or LinkedIn first. Is it's not that TikTok or YouTube are bad. It's just that you don't need them. You don't need to go viral to get an extra 10 appointments a month. I'd rather see somebody raise their bottom line, have something they can reverse engineer, and then trying to go viral and break stuff is like a, you know, it's something we test here or there, but it's not something we depend on to get results. But there's other people that would say that I'm, you know, I'm holding people back with that advice, and they should post 3 to 5 times a day on TikTok, and they should just get out there and get in front of people. And there's a lot of merit to that as well. But I think as more and more people flock to social media, having substance in your content will be more important than having high production stuff or posting consistently all over the place. And so there's a lot to be said about that.
You want to get in touch with Nick Early? This is his business Facebook page, 7-figure team building secrets for life insurance agents. Just look for A Systems right there. Make sure that you click on the join button. And that is one of the ways that you can get in contact with Mr. Early. Are there any other suggestions or recommendations in terms of, you know, seeking you out, doing some research, or possibly
Nope.
getting in contact with
I will know if you try to join my Facebook group. That's how you get my attention.
All righty. As far as Brian Irame, this is the logo that you want to look for. Stand strong with money in the palm. That's right. Get that money.
Love it.
And that is his YouTube channel right there. That is the best way to get in contact with Mr. Irame. When you click on more, you have a link right here to where that's to join the private Facebook group. But also there's a way that people can schedule a session with you, correct, Mr. Irame?
Yes, sir. Right there in that link tree.
that
There
the link,
is.
that right there.
Yep.
That's
Uh-huh.
what happens.
You
There
got
you
the
go.
New Rules to Money course. You have book, a console. Oh, you went a little fast, too fast to the bottom.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
Oh, we got all the links right here.
Yep, everything I possibly have available is right
That's your
there in
digital
one
business
location.
card right there, ladies. and
Yes,
gentlemen.
sir.
So stand strong on Facebook. That's the logo to look for. That link right there will give you all his contact information. And if you want to reach out to Mr. Iremate, that is how you get it done. So with that being said, gentlemen, man, what a what a powerful conversation today. I mean, it lived up to the expectations. Don't you guys agree? That was
Yes,
epic.
sir. Yes,
We were
sir.
definitely
Enjoy
going
to
to do
be
this.
here.
Huge thanks to Nick Early and Brian Iremate for bringing the heat and dropping so many actionable strategies. Folks, if you've been overwhelmed by social media, hopefully now you're walking away with some clarity and most importantly, a game plan. Remember, it's not about going viral. And Brian, I mean, I'm talking with him yesterday. I mean, that 200, almost $300,000 halfway through the year, and it's all organic, not a single dollar. And it's just the traffic that is just, organically going to his page. He doesn't have hundreds or millions of subscribers. It's more like what is it? 1,000, somewhere in that
Under
neighborhood.
10,000.
Under the quality over quantity, but it's about becoming visible to the right people with the right message. You don't need ads. You don't need, you need strategy. You need consistency and content that speaks directly to the problems you solve. So if you found value in today's episode, make sure to hit that share button, tag a friend, and leave a review. And if you are watching this live on Facebook, drop your biggest takeaway in the comments or even on the replay. So we will be back next week with more ways to protect, grow, and multiply your money. But until then, keep building, keep learning, and keep making your money work harder than you do. Till then, take care, be well. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Peace and prosperity.